It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the Locker Room. Texas Talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do.
Welcome to the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on SportsRadio 610. Just got off the practice field, day 8 of Texans training camp. I'll break that down for you at the usual time. 9 p.m. Is when I stream live. I put out videos throughout the day. 9 p.m. is when I stream live. Subscribe, like, ride along. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. Decided to do this live because, full disclosure, I enjoy doing it more live. I didn't feel like recording, so I want to do this live, and then I want to hit the showers because it was hot as hell out there today. CJ Stroud has made a statement the last couple of days. I'll get into that at 9 o'clock. Check that video out. Also, some other things that stuck out about camp today. We'll get into that. But it was a really active week for the Houston Texans. It was a really active week in camp. A lot of things are shaping up. We're getting close to a game. Got the pleasure of speaking to John Metchie, second-year receiver. First time he's going to step foot on an NFL football field. We all know about John Metchie coming into the league, second-round pick out of Alabama. The Texans selected him over some other pretty good options at the wide receiver position. They went with Metchie, and then before he could even step on the field, we found out John Metchie was battling leukemia. And all the talk about football and stuff like that kind of went to the back of mind. Is this guy going to be okay? Is this guy going to freaking live? And not only is he living, he's looking really good out there on the field. And as far as just impressiveness of a football player, I think had this never even happened, had he never even battled leukemia, he would have been a very interesting guy. He's lived in multiple countries. He was born in Taiwan. He went to a boarding school at 14, ended up getting the scholarship at Alabama. Nick Saban described him as everything that he would ever want in a wide receiver. If you look at the list of wide receivers that have played at Alabama, that's a pretty impressive praise from Nick Saban. You can go all the way from Julio Jones to Jalen Waddle, and you can fill in between there to realize how high a praise that is. But sometimes when people get hyped up in this business, you kind of you actually talk to them and you're like, that wasn't that impressive. John Metchie is beyond impressive. And I don't want to say like my life was changed or anything like that, but you can just tell when someone has a little bit more to them. And watching training camp, and we're closer than literally anyone else watching. We're on the 50-yard line. That's where we broadcast. You can see the videos at Landry Locker. Metchie, it seems like his teammates, even ones that have been in the league longer than him, they gravitate towards him. Nico Collins is asking him for advice. He was showing Tank Dell how to run routes, and Tank Dell is obviously a first-year player, and Metchie's technically a second. But you can just tell he has these leadership qualities. And I asked him, and we'll hear this in a second, if he's always possessed those qualities. But before we get into that, I just asked Metchie, you had high expectations coming into the league. You want to start, your career. Do you ever get tired of talking about the leukemia? Like, at what point do you get tired of talking about that, if ever? Here's John Metchie.
Is there ever a time where you kind of get tired of talking about it and you just want to focus on, hey, I'm ready to play some ball?
Yeah. I would say I'm locked and loaded. It's definitely a part of who I am. I understand that. That is now my story, and I'll always be a part of who I am. But the fact that I'm able to be back on the field, I'm ready to go 1,000%.
Okay. So he's ready to go 1,000%, and you can actually see it and believe it. These traits that we see from John Metchie. I was talking to Brooks Cabina of the Houston Chronicle, the great Brooks Cabina, about John Metchie, and I was talking about all this leadership. And, Brooks said, well, given what he's been through, of course, the players gravitate to him. But I was hearing stuff like this about John Metchie before we even knew that he had leukemia. So I asked John Metchie on Sports Radio 610, have you always had these traits? Maybe they're magnified, but these leadership traits, all this type of stuff, to where Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Derek Stingley, they all seem to be picking your brain. Have you always possessed these traits? Has this always been a part of who John Metchie is?
I think it's always been me. I think even in college, I think it's just being a student of the game. I wouldn't really self-appoint myself any type of leader But I would say it's just being a student of the game, wanting to play the game the right way, wanting to learn, and always wanting to grow and challenge myself, and always wanting to be better. I think it's just being a real student of the game.
How has your daily life changed since what you went through last year? Not necessarily the mental part, but have you made like any adjustments in your daily life?
I think I've gotten stronger in certain routines for sure. Within my daily life, I know like taking time in the morning and night for myself and my personal and my mental has been big. It's because it's something I was able to do when I was in the hospital. I had all that time while getting treatment. I also had to keep getting better and working on myself. So I think I've taken a lot of things away from that past year that I still implement day to day now.
Okay. Well, I just can't imagine, spending all that time and that young and coming off the torn ACL and everything there. Here's more from John Metchie. And this was a good question by my partner, my brother, my friend, John Lopez. I have brother? Hell, let's be honest, grandpa, dad, stepdad. Here is John Lopez asking John Metchie, and he's going deep. Lopez is diving deep in there. What the first few hours were like when he figured out that he was going to have to battle leukemia.
What was the first few hours like? And everybody knows someone who has battled cancer. Someone very close to me was diagnosed a couple of years ago. The first few hours always seemed to be like head racing. Like, what was that? What was going on?
Yeah. The first few hours was definitely the toughest parts of it. Not just the first few hours, but the first few days. But the first few hours specifically was definitely the toughest. Everything was moving really fast. Like doctors are moving
and you're
fast.
going in a million different directions.
Your body, they're moving you to a lot of different rooms. Your head. For me especially, I had these migraines that were really like debilitating. I wasn't able to like really do much, look, speak, really hear people. So the first few hours are really fast just because it's a really critical condition and you kind of have to get started right away.
And it changed you?
Yeah.
How?
It changed me for the better. I think I've always been a person that's had a really strong faith. But now, especially after an experience like that, you're really rooted in your faith. And you really understand the things that are important to you. I feel like I've always had a good sense of that. But now it's like you really understand the things and the people that are important to you, your purpose and the people that you love and that you care about in this world.
What is your purpose?
I think my purpose is trying to be, one, the best version of myself, and two, help as many people as I can, whether it's inspiring people or just actually helping people. So I think those two things.
It's really good stuff. Now, whenever someone gets hurt, whenever someone gets sick, whether it's Damar Hamlin, whether it's, John Metchie, you have people say, well, football is back of mind now. It's easy for you to say. Maybe it is for you. Maybe it's that fake compassion where, when something happens, non-football fans want to chime in on it. But these guys love football. Football is a big part of who they are. It's a big part of their relationship. It's a big part of their mindset. It's a big part of their everyday life. And I want you to hear from John Metchie himself when I asked him, because I can't relate to this. I don't know what this is like. I'm sure a lot of us like indirectly can relate to cancer, but when you're John Metchie, you've dedicated a large chunk of your life to football. You're already going through rehab on a torn ACL, and you're thinking about football. When the cancer diagnosis comes down, is football always front of mind? Is it something that just kind of sits on the side? I think it's interesting to hear from someone that's actually in the situation like John Metchie. And here's what he had to say about where football was when it came to his thoughts as he was going through the battle of his life.
So going back to everything you went through, at what point do you start thinking about football, or was football always kind of, maybe not in the front of your mind, but was football always kind of something like, I want to get back on the field? Where did that fit into everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always thought about football. I thought about football every single day for the past year, even including the day I got diagnosed. There's not a day where I didn't think about football or getting back to playing football. I think it was probably my biggest motivating factor in working to get back and waking up every day to attack the day, regardless of if I just had to sit there and get treatment or if they let me walk around or whatever it is I could do. So I definitely thought about football every single day.
It's wild. It's wild, and that's cool to hear. And it's good to know that he's reached that goal. and he's on the field. How do you remain ready, though? This is the final thing we'll hear from John Metchie. The full interview, by the way, it is in the description. So check that out. While you're at that, though, do me a favor, subscribe, like, right along. If you're a Texans fan, got you covered. If you're not a Texans fan, you want the pulse of the Texans. I know there hasn't been a lot of resources for that. We started this at the beginning of last season. No one gave a shit about what the Texans were doing because they were terrible. Getting a little bit better. This is the best place to come. Best place for radio / podcast / interviews like this, John Metchie, which we have throughout the season. In the Loop, Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Best place digitally. You're already here. So go ahead, subscribe, like, get the pulse of the Texans. If you just subscribe to this, you follow along, you'll know every storyline, everything you need to know about the Texans. Promise you, 100% consistency, no days off. John Metchie on staying ready throughout the entire process.
Like I said at the beginning, being a student of the game, I think it's keeping those traits that helped me when I was in college and helped me become the player I am today. On those things, on knowing my assignment, my alignment technique, knowing what we're trying to do, learning the playbook, having a grasp. I know this last year was a blessing because I was able to work on my game and my physical, but the game's also a big part mental. And when I get that mental part fully down, I'll really be able to play and really be able to run.
All right, there you go. So that's some good stuff from John Metchie. Full interview available down there. Still doing the 9 o'clock stream. There's a lot of crap to get into from today's practice. I can promise you that, a lot. And tomorrow going to be under the lights at 5. Let me know if you're going to be out there. Come by, say hi. Real quick question before we got out of here because I saw it. Nathan says, and I answer all questions during the live stream. So if I don't get to it now, just get in the next live stream. I should post the link to that in the next couple of hours. Or just subscribe and you'll be alerted. My buddy said Will Anderson was getting bullied by Titus today. Look, man, like a lot of people see things differently. I was right there the entire time. I even saw one-on-ones and stuff. I would say if it were a boxing match, Will Anderson got the best of Titus. There's obviously going to be reps where the right tackle beats the end, but I kind of thought Will Anderson was getting the best of him a couple of times. So, that's what that is. Ryan Hayes says, I need more Texans memorabilia in the background. It's funny you say that. JJ Watt, who's a listener of the radio program, he signed a jersey for me before he left. Actually made it out to me and said from a loophole, which is what our radio listeners are. And he signed the jersey. I've actually sent it off to get framed. It's ready. I'm not going to be able to get it. I got a baby coming in 2 weeks. So my fantasy draft is the final Sunday of August. I'm going to go get it. And that's why this space is here. It's for the JJ Watt jersey, and it is signed. So that's why that is there. It's already ready. It's just down the street. My buddy collects a lot of crap, so he got me a good deal. So it is ready, but I like where your head's at. That's definitely something that is going to happen. So we will have that ready. I'll talk to you at 9 o'clock. Appreciate everyone for coming through. We'll talk more about what we saw at camp. And always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we are all in this together. Thanks for coming through. Little early live. Usually it's just a video. Early live 9 p.m., baby.
Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days.